3 years of drought. I risked my life to block the Wei Crown Prince's carriage. I secured a sack of grain for my family, but at the cost of becoming a servant in the Wei household. Yet I rose swiftly, ultimately becoming the Crown Prince's consort. But my own sister refused to accept it. Reborn into this life, she stepped forward first to block the carriage. Overcome with triumph, I silently cast her a sympathetic glance. Did she really think this Wei Crown Prince was some kind of treasure? On the day I married the Wei Crown Prince, guests from all directions came to celebrate. They all said I was a crow perched on a branch, transformed into a phoenix. I smiled wryly, as if mocking myself. Only I knew the bitterness hidden behind this overwhelming wealth and honor. Before the Wei residence, an ox cart slowly appeared. Seated upon it were my elder sister and her husband. My sister wore coarse cloth garments, appearing somewhat shabby. Her hair bore no jewels or ornaments, not even a silver hairpin. Her husband, Cui Rusheng, reached to help her down, but she pushed his hand away. "Don't touch me with those filthy hands." Ignoring the mocking glances of the guests, she walked straight to my bridal chamber. I sat before the mirror in my phoenix crown and bridal robes, troubled by the weight of the elaborate headdress. "My dear sister, you are truly blessed to marry into the Wei family as the Crown Prince's consort." Unable to detect the bitterness in her words, I affectionately pulled her closer. Suddenly, she asked me, if I had been the one to stop the Wei family carriage that day, would it still be you sitting here today? I sensed her deep disappointment, yet couldn't fathom it. Though her husband, Cui Rusheng, came from a poorer family, he treated her well. Surely that was better than living beside a husband as venomous as a scorpion. Before I could respond, she drew a dagger from her bosom. With swift, decisive motion, she plunged it into my throat. Screaming with fury, "How dare you marry into the Wei household? In looks and learning, I surpass you in every way. Yet you, with your cunning charms, dared to seduce the young master by the carriage. I won't let you live in peace. Die." I felt the wet heat on my neck, trying to speak but no sound came. In that moment, I only wanted to say, "Sister, flee. You have no idea how ruthless the Wei young master is." But my world suddenly plunged into darkness. When I opened my eyes again, I was back in the year of famine. My family hadn't eaten a single grain of rice in half a month, surviving only by gnawing on tree bark. In the entire city, only the Wei family had grain. Sister hurriedly changed into clean clothes and left the house. I followed behind her, watching as she headed straight for the Wei residence. I grabbed her arm. "Sister, are you sure you want to go?" She yanked my hand away and shoved me to the ground. "This lifetime, you won't steal my spotlight. Mark my words, the Crown Prince's consort is mine." I stopped pleading and watched her run away in silence. Crown Prince's consort? Let whoever wants it have it. I certainly don't want it again. After waiting by the roadside for a long time, the Wei mansion's carriage finally came speeding toward us. My sister clenched her teeth, closed her eyes tightly, and stood in front of the carriage. I smiled, but not at her. I was laughing at myself from that day, how reckless I had been. Just as the galloping horses were about to trample my sister into pulp, the carriage stopped. A cold, stern voice rang out. "You're quite fearless, aren't you?" My sister, echoing my words from my past life, replied calmly. 3 years of drought, corpses littering the fields, death is inevitable. What is there to fear? Wei Xingji lifted the sedan curtain with keen interest. Studying my sister. Since that is your stance, you shall become a servant in the Wei household. At least you won't starve. My sister prostrated herself repeatedly in gratitude. After a moment, as if suddenly remembering something, she mimicked my words. This servant has one more request. My parents have raised me for many years. I begged the young master to bestow grain upon them. Wei Xingji smiled without warmth, responding only after a long pause. Granted. My sister flashed a triumphant smile, looking at me with unrestrained glee. Her eyes seemed to say, "See? What you could do. I can do too." I suppressed my pity. Everyone knew the Wei heir was blessed with good looks and came from a distinguished family. But no one knew he was poisoned to the core. Sister brought back a sack of grain. Father and mother were overjoyed, clutching sister's hands and showering her with affection, never forgetting to rub it into me standing nearby. "Look how clever your sister is, bringing such blessings to our family. Now look at you, good for nothing. Just eating for free." I swallowed a surge of anger. I remembered in my past life, when I brought back grain, they hadn't treated my sister this way, nor had they shown me any warmth. When they learned I was going to the Wei household as a servant, they'd even been relieved I wouldn't be eating their food. Now, they clung to her hand, filled with reluctance. Sister reassured them, "Father, mother, I'm going to the Wei household to live a better life. Once I've established myself, I'll come back to support you." Seeing her so hopeful, I kindly warned, "Sister, being a servant in the Wei household isn't easy either. One misstep could cost you your life. You can still turn back now." She retorted coldly, "Don't think I don't know what you're scheming. You just don't want me to become the crown prince's consort. Do you? I'll prove you wrong." Before leaving, my sister specifically instructed our parents. Our daughter is no longer young. Since Brother Rusheng is also waiting to marry, I suggest we send her over as his bride. I knew sister feared I'd disrupt her plans. To eliminate any future complications, she wanted to marry me off quickly. Father and mother chimed in. Yes. With her gone, there'll be one less mouth to feed. Hearing this, my heart grew icy. In my past life, I traded my own flesh and blood to secure food for my family. Now they complain I'm just another mouth to feed. Clinging to the last shred of familial affection, I asked, "Father, mother, are you truly going to marry me off to Brother Rusheng? Just to save on one meal?" My sister, smug with petty triumph, chuckled beside me. "What's wrong with Brother Rusheng? He's got an old yellow ox at home. You should be grateful he didn't marry you off to Lamely." Lamely was the village landlord, past 50, already married to 3 wives and still wanting more. I finally saw reality clearly and silently packed my clothes. Father and mother kept urging, "Hurry up! Hurry up! We'll send you to the Cui household today. Maybe we'll even get to see what kind of food they have." Sister was overjoyed. I looked up and asked her, "Sister, do you remember how I climbed from a household servant to become the crown prince's consort?" "Of course I remember. Wasn't it just because you danced the green waist dance at the crown prince's birthday banquet?" "I've already learned it." I nodded. "Good. Remember it well. Don't disappoint your little sister." In my past life, that single dance stunned the city. That very night, Wei Xingji sent me to another man's bed. "Sister, I'll be watching." My parents sent me to the Cui household that very night. Cui Rusheng was momentarily bewildered. "Russian, this girl is marrying into your family today. I wonder if your parents left you anything of value before they passed. My daughter can't marry you for nothing." Father and mother kept eyeing the ox outside. Russian's face flushed crimson as he led the family's only ox to the front of the house. "This is the only valuable thing we have. Take it." My parents were overjoyed, snatching the reins, standing by. I thought to myself, what a fool he is. They grabbed the ox and started to leave, afraid he might change his mind. I called after them, "Father, mother, after today, I am no longer your daughter." but they were too preoccupied with how many pounds of grain the socks could buy, walking away without a backward glance. The bitterness and sorrow of past and present lives washed over me, and I couldn't help but cry out loud. Cui Rusheng, who was nearby, was terribly alarmed. He hurriedly asked if I didn't want to marry him. I shook my head, tears still in my eyes. He brought out half a steamed bun from the house and said to me, "Are you hungry? Don't worry. If you come with me, I'll make sure you're never hungry again." Dazed, I took the steamed bun and began to bite into it greedily. The salty tears that flowed into my mouth added a hint of saltiness, making it the most delicious thing I had ever tasted in this life. Cui Rusheng had little formal education, possessing only brute strength. He worked from dawn till dusk every day, always bringing me back half a steamed bun. At last, my stomach was full, yet deep down, I never accepted him as my husband. I remembered all too well that in my past life, he had been my brother-in-law. Fortunately, Cui Rusheng was a kind-hearted man and never forced himself upon me. One night, I woke from a nightmare to find Cui Rusheng gone from the room. Stepping outside, I saw him gulping water straight from the barrel. In his left hand, he held a piece of tree bark, chewing on it while drinking, looking as though he hadn't eaten in 3 days. Seeing me come out, he immediately tossed the bark aside. "Nyener, you're awake. Didn't you eat anything today?" "No. I was just so thirsty. I came out for some water." "Look." He patted his swollen belly, urging me to go back to sleep. Early the next morning, I followed him to the blacksmith's shop. He swung his arms with all his might, hammering the red-hot iron stroke after stroke. He worked until dusk. When the foreman finally gave him half a steamed bun, he carefully wrapped it in oil paper and tucked it into his chest. Back home, he greeted me with his usual cheerful smile. "Nyener, they gave me 3 steamed buns for today's work. I saved half for you, eat up." After saying this, he went outside to scoop water to drink, ladle after ladle until his belly swelled again. My heart ached, and I confronted him directly. "Rusheng, I saw everything today. You do such heavy labor every day and get only half a steamed bun. You save it all for me to eat. If you keep this up, you'll starve to death." He scratched his head awkwardly, his voice tinged with guilt and embarrassment. "It's fine. Just 2 more days." The foreman said I'll get a silver note soon. Days later, he returned triumphantly with a note. "Nyener, look! We can buy food now." I picked up the paper. It wasn't a silver note at all, just a torn page from a storybook with a sloppy red stamp. But Rusheng couldn't read, so he believed it was real. I couldn't bear to tell him the truth. I quietly tucked it away and smiled at him. "Wonderful! We'll have food tomorrow." With no other options, I went to the mountain to gather some medicinal herbs, hoping to trade them for food in town. Suddenly, a pair of feet kicked my herbs away. Well, if it isn't my long-lost sister. "What's this? Has Brother Rusheng been treating you poorly? Making a woman like you expose herself on the streets hawking goods?" I followed her gaze. After so many days apart, my sister now wore expensive silk robes, her face powdered and made up, looking much more plump and well-fed. Seems life at the Crown Prince's mansion has been kind to her. But hunger sapped my strength to argue. I silently gathered the scattered herbs. She stood nearby, laughing gleefully. Who would have thought? The wheel of fortune turns. Now I feast on silk and satin, never wanting for a meal. Back in the day, you lived in luxury at the Crown Prince's mansion. Did you ever imagine this day would come? Now it's your turn to taste this life. Oh dear. You look so pale and thin, haven't you eaten in days? Why don't we go to the Crown Prince's residence to tip over the slop buckets? We might find something edible. After her taunts, she turned to leave. Suddenly, I grabbed the hem of her skirt. The slop buckets? I'll go tip them. Not only will I empty the prince's household slop bucket, but I'll seize the chance to scavenge food for myself and brother Rusheng. And I'll watch with my own eyes as you, sister, step by step, walk your way to ruin. Seeing me reduced to such wretchedness, begging to empty the slop bucket, sister laughed with delight beyond measure. On the first day of the 7th month, the Wei prince's birthday banquet was held. The Wei mansion's slop buckets had multiplied, and I couldn't help but sigh. Truly, behind the red gates, wine and meat rot, while frozen corpses lie in the streets. The common folk were starving, gnawing on tree roots. Yet the Wei mansion slop buckets overflowed with lavish waste. Every time a cartload was hauled out, the starving people would rush to scavenge it clean. My sister approached me, pinching her nose. You reek of that slop. Go wash up immediately. Tonight, I'll show you the world. She brought me to the birthday banquet, wanting me to witness firsthand how her dance would dazzle all the nobles present. At the banquet, Wei Xingji sat at the head of the table, cradling his current favorite beauty. Half the court's elite were invited to the feast. Hidden behind the musicians, I stared silently at the platter of meat on the table, thinking how thrilled Cui Rusheng would be if I could bring this back to him. The urgent drumbeat began, familiar beyond words. It was the drumbeat for the green waist dance. Sister entered slowly to each beat, swaying gently as she waved her sleeves. Her waist, outlined by her skirt, appeared slender and delicate, as if it could be grasped in a single hand. The guests were spellbound, all eyes fixed on sister. Even Wei Xingji, unusually, turned his gaze toward her. Sister smiled radiantly, her expression charming and captivating. As the dance concluded, the guests remained lost in its spell, still in a daze. Minister Li was the first to applaud enthusiastically. Excellent! The poem speaks of a beauty in the southern lands, dancing with a light, green waist. Seeing her today, her fame is truly well-deserved. Wei Xingji shot Minister Li a deep look, gently pushed the beauty in his arms aside, and then carefully helped sister up from her kneeling position of gratitude. He lifted her chin with a playful smile. What is your name, Your Highness? I am Shenin. He leaned close to whisper something in her ear, inaudible to others. But I distinctly recall his words. Go bathe in the side hall and wait for me. Her face flushed crimson with bashfulness as she gave a slight nod. Passing by me, she challenged me with her words. Xin Yan, I'll make you see I'm no less than you. I offered a wry smile and offered my congratulations. Congratulations, sister, on achieving your heart's desire. Cui Rusheng couldn't hide his delight when he saw the meat I'd brought back. Nyener, where did you get this? He couldn't help but swallow hard as he spoke. He knew nothing about my trips to the prince's residence to empty the food waste buckets. Bought it with the silver notes you gave me. Eat quickly. He let out a silly, foolish laugh and eagerly grabbed a piece to eat. It's been so long since I've tasted meat. I expected him to devour it. But after one piece, he stopped. I'm full. You can have the rest. Nyener. Cui Rusheng treated me unexpectedly well. Yet whenever I felt touched, I'd remember how he must have treated my sister in my past life, probably just as kindly. It's just a pity she didn't know how to cherish it. The next day, while emptying the slop bucket at the Crown Prince's residence, my sister found me, her face twisted with fury. You knew all along, didn't you? Seeing her so enraged, I laughed. Knew what? Knew that yesterday you were sent to Minister Li's bedchamber? She swung with all her might to slap my face. But I caught her arm midair, pinning her motionless. I suddenly released her grip, and she staggered back half a step. Sister, save your energy. Instead of wasting time hitting me, Why not focus your efforts on currying favor with the crown prince? You might just end up as his consort. The mention of the crown prince's consort seemed to snap her out of her anger. Her expression turned sullen, yet her tone softened as she asked, almost pleading, "Sister, tell me, what must I do next to become the crown prince's consort?" My sister had one redeeming quality: she knew how to read the situation and bend when necessary. Though she hated me intensely now, her desire to become the crown prince's consort was strong enough to make her lower her pride and beg me. I didn't beat around the bush, telling her plainly, "Whomever the crown prince sends you to bed with, kill them." In my past life, when I was sent to Minister Li's bedchamber, I fought back fiercely and accidentally killed him. I thought I'd lose my life for it. But unexpectedly, Wei Xingji not only didn't blame me, he praised me for doing well and rewarded me handsomely. It turned out that more than winning people over, Wei Xingji craved nothing more than heavy official responsibilities and chaos across the land. From then on, whenever he sent me to someone's side, I knew he wanted that person dead. Sister was stunned, unable to believe it could be so. "You're not lying to me, are you?" "How could I, sister? Besides, in this world, what choice do you have but to trust me?" Seeing the sincerity in my face, she offered a few feigned words of thanks before hurrying away. Watching her retreating figure, I couldn't help but curve my lips. "Sister, I truly did not deceive you. Yet I also did not tell you that this path, no matter how you walk it, leads only to death." Time and again, I eliminated Wei Xingji's thorns in his side. What did I gain in return? One night, he summoned me to his chambers. Before the servants, he stripped me bare. Then, with his own hands, he drove silver needles into my flesh. One by one, agony consumed me as I begged for mercy. His laughter grew louder. He heated the needles red hot and thrust them anew into my flesh, searing it black. Yet he said, "Shen Yan, can you smell the fragrance?" Night after night he tortured me until dawn. Finally, after enduring unbearable pain without a single cry, Wei Xingji stopped. He declared, "What I demand is absolute submission. Whether joy or sorrow, you must endure it all for me." Sister, what Wei Xingji truly wants is nothing more than an obedient beast. Cui Rusheng, who usually left early and returned late, was so busy he was rarely seen. Today, however, he came home early. With a mysterious look, he handed me a cloth bundle. Unwrapping it, I found a piece of clean cotton cloth. "Nyener, I hauled 2,000 jin of lumber at the dock today. The merchant gave me this cotton cloth. I thought I could make you a new garment." I stared at his eager expression, feeling utterly at a loss. Hauling 2,000 jin of heavy goods, and he traded it for a useless piece of cloth. His kindness toward me left me utterly unsure how to respond. After much deliberation, I wrote a letter and handed it to him, saying, "Rushing, the famine has eased slightly now. The court is in need of capable men. With your strength, instead of exchanging it for this cloth, you should enlist and seek your fortune." He hung his head like a child who'd done something wrong, asking cautiously, "Nyener, do you dislike this cloth?" I thought, once autumn comes and the weather turns cooler. I cut him off, speaking earnestly, "We are husband and wife now. But look at our home, how bleak it is. If we live like this, we'll only become a laughingstock to others. In this predicament, the only way out is to throw caution to the wind and take risks. Do you understand?" Brother Rusheng's eyes shifted from confusion to resolve. He looked at me and nodded solemnly. "Go enlist in the Yuanbei army. Once you've made a name for yourself there, deliver this letter to Xiaoling, the commander." Xiaoling, I'd heard of him in my past life while helping Wei Xingji eliminate rivals. He was Wei Xingji's sworn enemy. In the letter, I detailed every instance of Wei Xingji's factionalism and corruption, so Xiao Ling could eventually present it to the emperor. Before departing, Cui Rusheng promised me with lingering reluctance, "Nyener, I swear I'll make a name for myself in the army and return to you soon." I nodded and smiled, seeing him off. Yet my heart remained unruffled. Having lived 2 lifetimes, the only thing I truly learned was to harbor no expectations of others. In my previous life, I believed entering the Wei household would bring me a good life. Yet Wei Xingji deemed even a glance at me superfluous. I exhausted myself dancing for him, thinking his favor would grant me happiness, only to find life worse than death. Now I understand, to live well, one must rely solely on oneself. My letter to Cui Rusheng wasn't written hoping he'd truly rise to greatness. I merely pointed him toward a path. Xiao Ling is a discerning commander who knows how to place the right men in the right roles. In my past life, he earned glorious military achievements and the emperor's deep favor. I believe that with Rusheng following him, better days will come sooner or later. It's also my way of repaying his kindness. As for me, it's time to settle the accounts of both my past and present lives. In the golden autumn season, the air carried the fragrance of osmanthus blossoms. Yet I still spent my days at the crown prince's residence, breathing in the stench of swill. Today was a special day. I lingered at the back gate for 3/4 of an hour before slowly pulling the cart inside. My sister stood thinly clad on the veranda, lost in thought. I couldn't help but approach her with concern. "Sister, autumn has arrived. Why aren't you wearing more?" Through her thin fabric, I saw her neck covered in healed and festering needle marks. Terrified, I collapsed to the ground, trembling and speechless. Sister laughed eerily, yanking me up and pinning me against the corridor. "What are you pretending for, little sister? Don't you feel happy seeing me like this?" My mouth gaped open, but no sound came out. My sister grew even more frenzied. She dragged me all the way to the slop bucket and forced my head into it. The stench of rotting meat and vegetables assaulted my nostrils, and I nearly vomited. "Act! Keep acting! You brought me to this. And now you play dumb." Filth choked my nose and mouth. I struggled desperately, arms and legs flailing. By now, that person should have appeared. Why the delay? Just as I was about to fight back, a voice I hated with every fiber of my being rang out. "Shenin, what are you doing?" Sister halted her actions, granting me a moment's respite. I collapsed to the ground, gasping for fresh air. Yet the stench of swill clung relentlessly. Sister's voice trembled slightly. "Your Highness." This servant was merely playing with my younger sister. Wei Xingji approached a few steps, his expression unreadable, yet his words carried a sharp edge. "I've never liked being deceived." My sister immediately knelt, pleading for mercy. This servant dared not. Just now, my younger sister was acting like a mad fool. I couldn't help but discipline her in the heat of the moment. The moment these words left her mouth, the atmosphere froze solid. None knew today marked the anniversary of Wei Xingji's birth mother's death. His birth mother, a woman driven mad by cruelty, had been abused to death. Each year on this day, Wei Xingji would slip out the back gate to Qingyang Mountain to burn paper offerings. I too only learned of this by chance in my past life. Sister, having entered the household recently, naturally knew nothing of it. Wei Xingji's expression had already darkened, the look preceding his fury. Gasping for breath, I burst into laughter. But as I laughed, tears welled up, and I hurled the filthy contents of the slop bucket at my sister and Wei Xingji. True to my expectations, Wei Xingji drew the sword at his waist and pointed it at my sister. "My indulgence has emboldened you to such audacity. How dare you presume to discipline others in the heir's residence? When did you earn such a right?" My sister kowtowed repeatedly, begging for mercy. Your Highness. Spare my life. I know my fault. I'll never dare again. But Wei Xingji was no soft-hearted man. With a single stroke, he severed my sister's right hand, the very hand that had just held me down in the slop bucket. Blood gushed forth as my sister shrieked in agony. Terrified, I began wailing beside her. Wei Xingji remained unsatisfied. He swung his blade again, aiming for her left hand. I instinctively stepped in to block. The sword struck my right shoulder, leaving me drenched in blood. Only then did Wei Xingji toss his sword aside. My sister looked utterly bewildered, never having imagined I would save her. As for me, it was all an act, merely to lower Wei Xingji's guard. He hurriedly summoned a physician to bandage my wound, his brow beaded with a thin sheen of sweat from the urgency. I found it utterly laughable. Could someone with a heart as venomous as a snake truly grow so anxious over another? Having lost her right hand, and seeing the crown prince so frantic over me, my sister's gaze turned fiery enough to set me ablaze. I pretended not to notice, watching her as she laughed incessantly. Sister, this is nothing yet. Wei Xingji assigned his side hall to me as my residence. In his spare time, he often sat in the courtyard, watching me run about as if possessed. I knew he was seeing his mother through me. An osmanthus tree stood in the courtyard. When the wind blew, its blossoms scattered across the ground. I laughed foolishly, gathering the fallen flowers one by one. After collecting a handful, I placed them in a cup and handed it to Wei Xingji with a bright smile. Osmanthus tea. He. Drink some osmanthus tea. Wei Xingji's eyes widened in shock. He grabbed my shoulders. How did you know? My expression remained unchanged. But inside, I was overjoyed. I had bet correctly. In a past life, he had once murmured drunkenly, "Mother, I want to drink osmanthus tea." I remembered it vividly. Now, testing him myself, it proved true. Seeing he wouldn't drink, I stubbornly raised the cup. Drink the osmanthus soup. Husband, this is the osmanthus soup your wife made for you. He broke into a smile, realizing I was playing house with him. Only then did he raise the cup and drink it all in one gulp. As he turned away, my gaze darkened further. Autumn was fading into winter solstice. And outside, snowflakes began to drift down like scattered stars. I wondered if Cui Rusheng had made any headway in the army. As usual, I placed a small amount of arsenic in the wine and quietly warmed it by the stove. Tonight, everything should come to an end. Wei Xingji's reputation was now soaring. He held great prestige in the court and grew busier by the day. Yet no matter how occupied, he always found time to witness my madness. The wine had been warming for a long while when he finally arrived. A chill crept through the window, sending shivers down my spine. He sat silently at the desk, then suddenly looked into my eyes and said, "For some reason, I feel like I've seen these eyes somewhere before." I froze for a moment, then laughed foolishly. Beautiful eyes. Nyener is beautiful. Sister's eyes are beautiful too. Only then did he realize it was my sister he was comparing them to. I seized the moment to grab his sleeve. "Sister. I miss sister. Let's eat." Wei Xingji summoned my sister over. After so many days apart, she looked even more gaunt, her whole being like a soul lost. Only her eyes were hollow, until they lit up with anger upon seeing me. But with Wei Xingji standing nearby, she dared not vent her fury. I brought down the warmed wine and poured 2 cups for them. Osmanthus soup. Osmanthus soup. Husband, drink. Sister, drink too. Wei Xingji hesitated a moment before drinking the wine in his cup. Sister remained wary, stubbornly refusing to drink. I began to sob. Sister doesn't like me. Sister doesn't like the osmanthus soup I made for her. Wei Xingji shot her a cold, sweeping glance. Sister finally dared not refuse. Though she didn't finish it all. The wine trickled down her chin and soaked into her robe. It was clear new wounds had joined the old ones. It's okay, sister. The pain will be gone soon. A sudden chill swept through the room. I walked over and shut the doors and windows. Judging by the time, the poison should be taking effect. Wei Xingji suddenly doubled over in agony, clutching his stomach as he collapsed to the floor. Sister immediately turned to look at me. I remained calm and composed, approaching her unhurriedly to ask, "Is the crown prince all right?" Only then did he snap out of his daze, pointing at me angrily. "So you were faking it?" Sister frantically tried to help him up, but I gently pushed her away, sending her crashing to the floor too. Furious, she screamed at me, "You vile woman! How dare you poison the crown prince? I'll tear you limb from limb." I found her utterly ridiculous. "Sister, dear sister, isn't there a single spot on your body that isn't scarred? At a time like this, you're still defending him?" Her eyes burned with hatred. "So it was you. I knew you were behind this. If you hadn't sabotaged me, I'd have been the crown prince's consort long ago." I couldn't help but laugh out loud. "Sister, wake up from your dreams. What crown prince consort? In my past life, that title was merely a cover." Wei Xingji's true aim was rebellion. He pretended to marry a servant's daughter, but his real plan was to invite the emperor here to kill him with his own hands. Yet she still refused to believe it, only directing her hatred at me. "If that's the case, why didn't you tell me sooner? You deliberately watched me suffer this fate. You venomous viper." I laughed in shock. "Sister, did you ever give me a chance to speak? Back then, I was still fretting over how to escape the mansion under that heavy headdress. But you went straight for my life. Besides, didn't you choose this path yourself? Did I force you into it?" Sister stood dazed and disoriented, her gaze unfocused. Wei Xingji, however, had silently crept to the door, attempting to call for help. I grabbed the whip nearby and lashed out at him with all my might. This lash is for the me of my past life. Blood seeped from his back as he let out a pitiful howl. I lashed him again with all my strength. This lash is for the people of both lifetimes. You embezzled disaster relief grain, leaving corpses strewn across the land. Wei Xingji, a man like you deserves to die 100 times over. The pain overwhelmed him, and he fainted. Holding the whip, I slowly approached my sister. Suddenly, a strange sound came from outside. With a crash, the door was smashed open from the outside. A group burst into the room. The leader was covered in dust, snowflakes still clinging to his shoulders. It was Cui Rusheng. He pulled me into his arms, his voice urgent. "You scared the life out of me. I came back and you weren't home. When I asked, I found out you were at Wei's mansion. That damned bastard dared to kidnap my wife." His words were still so simple and earnest that I couldn't help but laugh until tears streamed down my face. My sister struggled to crawl out from the corner and threw herself at Cui Rusheng's feet. "Brother Rusheng, it's me. I'm Shenin. She's a poisonous woman. She poisoned the crown prince and me. Kill her now." Cui Rusheng glanced at her on the ground, then at me, and kicked her away. "Whatever my wife does is right." Sister refused to give up, screaming wildly, "I am your wife from your past life. Rusheng, I am." Her heart-wrenching cries went unanswered. People must pay the price for their choices, don't they? Cui Rusheng was now the deputy commander of the Yuanbei army. His mission this time was to seize the Wei family's assets by imperial decree. The emperor had already ordered Wei Xingji's immediate execution and the confiscation of all his family's property. As I was detailing the locations of the Wei family's private vaults to his men, Cui Rusheng suddenly bellowed, "Nyener, watch out!" He lunged forward to shield me, But my sister, with all her strength, plunged her hairpin deep into his left chest. My sister had completely lost her mind. She screamed wildly, "Start over." I refused to believe I could lose to you again. Enraged, I drew my sword and slit her throat. Fool! You didn't lose to me, you lost to yourself. I fight with honor. No matter the odds. I find a way to survive. But you, filthy and jealous, will always be crushed. No matter the stakes. She lay motionless on the ground, a single tear slowly trickling from the corner of her eye. I had no time to tend to her. I rushed to press my hand over Cui Rusheng's bleeding chest. He was always so full of life. But now his lips were deathly pale, his breath faint. An inexplicable panic gripped me. I was terrified he might die. Yet even then, he found the strength to reassure me. Don't be afraid, Nyener. I'm fine. I summoned every physician in the city. Bowl after bowl of blood-soaked gauze was a harrowing sight. Thankfully, Cui Rusheng's life was saved. The doctor said it was fortunate that a stack of silk cloth in his chest had deflected the blade by an inch. Otherwise, he would have died instantly. He lay unconscious in bed, severely blood-depleted, while his men came to visit him from time to time. They told me amusing stories about his time in the army. Sister-in-law, did you know? Brother Cui couldn't read. At first, we all teased him about it. Later, he found a literate soldier to teach him. Day after day, he'd sit writing, though I never knew what he was writing. He also said his wife was the best person in the world. Yet he'd only paid a single ox to marry her. He said he'd admired you since he was young, that you were exceptionally clever, unlike anyone else. As I listened to these stories, it felt like sand had gotten into my eyes. The silk cloth pinned to his chest was soaked in blood. For some reason, he hadn't discarded it but had neatly folded it and placed it aside. I took it and unfolded it. Scrawled across it were the words, "From this day forth, we unite in sacred bond, becoming life's most cherished pair. Red thread bound us early, to grow old together, hand in hand. May blossoms bloom and moons be full. As we joyfully begin our journey, we pledge to swim through seas and weather stones to dust, vowing as mandarin ducks to be first in love. This covenant is solemnly sealed." This was a marriage contract. Watching Rusheng slowly awaken on the bed, I called out tenderly, "Husband." The end.